All right, football at 4. Johnny Mac's in the house. We get you ready for the Eagles and Cowboys and all the NFL news that is happening right now on a Thursday Night Football tonight, right after Tony Bruno and Harry Mays bring you the Countdown to Kickoff show. And then we'll have the Chiefs and the Broncos. This Sunday, Countdown to Kickoff travels to Tollman Joe's. At 5 o'clock, Tony Bruno, Colin Thompson, John McMullen will get you ready for the Eagles and Cowboys. And McMullen joins us now here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we look at Eagles, Cowboys, and everything NFL right here on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. John, what's going on, my man?
How are you, Mike?
Doing well, man, and here we go. It's a Thursday edition. We're getting closer to Eagles and Cowboys, and I guess we'll start off with this quote that has rocked the Eagles locker room, if you will. No, not really. But what do you make of the Josina Anderson tweet today that insinuated, that somebody in that locker room feels that somebody dropped the ball in making a deal for Jalen Ramsey?
Well, get ready, because she just said something more incendiary. I just got told on NFL Live, so you're going to be hearing about that in a few seconds probably. But, yeah, I mean, people always try to put two and two together and which players are saying these types of things. We went through this with Carson Wentz and the Philly Voice story, and everybody knows Josina has a relationship with Alshon Jeffery, so too many people make that conclusion. Bottom line, I think Malcolm Jenkins said it best when he was talking about Zach Brown getting released, and he said, look, I don't do personnel, and that's any player. You could be disappointed they didn't get Jalen Ramsey as a player, but it's not your job. So I think it was a little bit overblown.
What exactly, do you know what she just said recently a couple of minutes ago? I did not know. We did not hear it.
She was talking about the offense, and someone told her the Eagles have to make stuff simpler, and even Peyton Manning needs to check down at times. So the assertion is that the offense is too complicated, too many bells and whistles, and obviously there's that Carson Wentz undertone as well. So I think that's going to end up being the bigger issue, and we'll see how that shakes out once that gets pushed out, which is, as I said, probably going to happen pretty quickly.
I find that to be a strange criticism this year, although I do think there are times where Carson has not checked down when he could, but this offense, and if you look at some of their situational numbers, whether it's third down or red zone, has been fairly good this year. I mean, look, they could be better, but this doesn't remind me of last year's offense as much. Maybe this past week, but on the whole, it has not reminded me. I know that they're down scoring to where they want to be, though, but they're still up way more than last year, even in that.
Yeah, I haven't had a huge problem. I think the problem has been personnel related from an offensive perspective, and the receivers not producing, especially since Deshaun Jackson has exited the lineup. I think that's been the bigger issue. And if anything, like I said, in Minnesota, I mean, without Carson Wentz, that game's an utter blowout. It would be really bad. Because he created so much offense by extending plays. I think there's a little bit, more the fake field goal, which really isn't offense. It's more special teams, and you're trying to get that. I thought that was goofy, and they were probably trying to create another moment because it was U.S. Bank Stadium. Sometimes I think they get a little bit too complicated on offense, but I don't think it's a huge problem.
So let me follow up with this, John, because you mentioned it when you said the Alshon Jeffery, Josina Anderson connection. There was a tweet last year that got some attention from Josina using an Eagles player. I think some people, again, pointed the dots at Alshon. And then, of course, the Philly Voice article is another example of anonymous sources where Alshon, again, his name came up. So I guess I would ask here, I've said it today, if I'm Alshon Jeffery, and I know he's not going to do this because he doesn't, but I think you got to come out there and clear your name. And even if you did say it, you got to lie, because the people upstairs, they're human beings too. Howie, Jeffrey, everybody, and they're probably connecting the same kind of dots that I might connect, or you, or Joe Fan on the street. And, you saw what they did to Michael Bennett, so this is now more than one occasion where the connection is Alshon Jeffery. I think he's if it's him, of course, but even if it's not and everybody thinks it's him, this is dangerous for him and his future as an Eagle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I don't know if it is him, and you're right. I mean, Alshon's not going to come out, and that's just not his nature to do something like that. But he might want to think about it, because you're right. Perception is often greater than reality. And the Eagles, no matter what they say, they moved on from Zach Brown because of a personality issue. That's the same reason they moved on from Michael Bennett. And if they start to think that Alshon Jeffery is a problem when it comes to Carson Wentz, well, they're not picking Alshon Jeffery if it comes down to those two. So, yeah, if he wants to stay here, he might want to clarify that this is not him.
John McMullen at JF McMullen on Twitter, and what he said was basically that we dropped the ball, and I don't even want to talk about this bleep anymore. I knew what it took to get him, and whatever. But that being said, do you think, now we were kind of discussing this earlier, that this is one guy who is inside the locker room that the Rams made a big deal. Why didn't we?
I totally lost you guys. I'm on the Bluetooth, so I don't know if it's you or me. I know you're talking about Jalen Ramsey, but as far
what I asked John was, do you think that it's one guy? Do you think that it's one guy who said this to Josina Anderson, or do you think that there is a bigger population of the people in that locker room that feel the same way? It's meaning like, hey, this team, the Rams, is 3-3. We're 3-3. They got the deal done. We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think players tend to think in much simpler ways, in the fact that that's not a criticism, but they're just looking at a great player. And everybody has tremendous respect for Jalen Ramsey in this league from a talent perspective. So you say, yeah, we need that guy. We need an all-pro corner, especially when you've been struggling so mightily at corner. Now, what Howie Roseman has to take into account is, yeah, you're getting a great player, you're getting a significant upgrade, but you're also giving up 2 first-round picks, another draft pick. Maybe you got to go to a third to get above the Rams, and you're going to have to sign him to an extension where he's probably going to be the highest-paid cornerback in football. So you have to outlay significant assets that way as far as the salary cap goes. And all of that enters into it. And I guarantee whoever this is, whether it's Alshon Jeffery or somebody else, did not weigh all of that. So it's not just we're getting a player. And this team has had 10 draft picks over the past 2 years. They've been in this win-now mode for a number of years, and they've been getting veteran players, and I believe that's the way they should have gone. That's what you do when you think the championship window is open. But you also do have to serve 2 masters, and they kind of realize some of our young players haven't hit as quickly as we expected. And if things go in a negative direction, we don't have a lot from a young player's perspective. So to give up significant assets on top of it, even though Jalen's only 24 years old, it's a complicated formula. It's not as simple as, that's a great player, go get him.
John, it seems like that over the past couple weeks and really throughout the entire season so far through six games, there's been a lot of noise, and I want your opinion on is contrived through the media.
Well, again, I'm losing. I don't know.
And putting. Go ahead, John.
Well, I don't know if it's because of the wind, but you guys keep breaking in and out. As far as this team, I think you were asking about the season and the mentality and how it's gone to this point. I think everybody's slightly disappointed. I think everybody thought that this would be a team that would be in a better position. But I think you have to also wake up every day and realize the sky isn't falling. And Doug used that terminology, and the fact that they're playing for first place. Maybe not the way they wanted to play for first place. Maybe they expected to be 5-1 and Dallas to be 5-1 and this to be two powerhouse teams. It hasn't worked out that way. But I think there is, even though they haven't been able to get that big fish, I think there's a lot of excitement to get Jalen Mills back out there, to get Ronald Darby back out there, and to get serviceable players out at the cornerback position. Because Jim Schwartz has said on numerous occasions this year, not just this week, on numerous occasions he's kind of intimated when you talk about that dichotomy between the pass rush and pass coverage, and why there hasn't been sacks, and what's the chicken, what's the egg. He's kind of intimated, look, if you want the pass rush to get home, you got to take away that first read. And the Eagles cornerbacks have not been able to take away that first read on too many occasions. And the hope is you get Darby back, you get Mills back, you get Maddox back down the road, you get LeBlanc back down the road, and maybe they can start taking away those first reads, and all of a sudden the pass rush shows up.
John, what do you think of Doug's kind of consideration? We were talking earlier today about maybe deferring after the coin toss, switching it up a little bit as a solution to maybe get the offense going, or the trend of falling behind resolved. What did you think of him doing that?
Well, I like it. I agree. Typically, I agree with deferring. And you want to, as they call it in this league, Bill Belichick, and sandwich the scoring at the end of the first half, get the ball scored again in the second half. That's been the Eagles' mentality. Usually that's my mentality. But I do think you have to look at the opponent. And I think last week was a perfect example. You're on the road against a team with a good defense and a really loud environment that doesn't want to play from behind. That's not who they are. They want to get a lead and take advantage of getting that lead and use that noise and amp up that defense. So to me, what do I want? I want the ball. I want to score right away, and I want to make them uncomfortable and have to play from behind. I think this default to always doing one thing is a mistake. So I think 75-80% of the time you always want to defer, and you always want to try to sandwich those scores. And by the way, the second part is the Eagles had that opportunity and didn't take it with a fake field goal. So if you're going to defer, kick the damn field goal and try to sandwich the two scores. So there's
John,
two issues I had with that last week.
John, I want to, real quick, because I don't see his name on the injury report today in any capacity. Mills, would he not be on the report yet? Would he not have to be on the report yet?
No, he doesn't. He's not on the report because he's not technically activated on the roster. They just started that 21-day window. So he only has to be put on the report once he's on the 53-man roster. And that is expected to happen, whether it's Friday or Saturday. Jalen was back out there today. He said yesterday the goal is to play on Sunday. I see no reason why he's not going to play. So ultimately, the Eagles have that open roster spot. They're gonna activate him. They're gonna put him on the 53. And the bigger question is, how much does he play? Because I think it's pretty evident he's going to play.
So you're looking at Mills most likely returning. Darby was limited today. Those two guys may be back on Sunday. And this is kind of what we were talking about, is that if they could just kind of get, even if they lost the game on Sunday, it would almost be a victory in their mind, right, John, that they get those two guys back and playing.
Oh, no question. I mean, we've talked a lot. I mean, Jim Schwartz likes Jalen Mills a lot, and one of the reasons why is because he's such a tough-minded player. He's also tough physically when it comes to run support, but he's got that corner mentality of being able to put a bad play behind you. And Jim talked about this week. Sidney Jones just doesn't have it. He tried to be nice. And Rasul Douglas has it, as he said, inconsistently. That's something that I think is underrated. That's a position where I don't care who you are, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, Deion Sanders, Jalen Ramsey, I don't care. You're going to get beat at that position because that's just what the NFL is, and everything is skewed against you. So you better be able to put it behind you and forget about it and go on to the next play. Jalen has that ability. So Jim is very excited to get him back, and Ronald Darby for that matter. And it'll be about a month, and that's what the original timetable was. I think we'll be at 28 days. Will be Sunday in Dallas, so a little bit less, and he has been limited, so I wouldn't say it's 100%. But if everything goes well, hopefully he'll be on the field as well. Probably just like Jalen will have a bit of a pitch count. So you'll see a rotational aspect. And, hey, for as many issues as the Eagles have from an injury perspective, the Cowboys probably have more and more significant injuries. So,
yeah, real quick on the injury front in Dallas, you know, they had. Yeah, real quick, John, on the injury front in Dallas, it sounds like Cooper is going to be out, right? He's got a deep thigh bruise, so it sounds like he would be out for them, and then they might have some offensive line issues.
Yeah, it's Amari, from what they said, is going to try to practice tomorrow or try to do something tomorrow. But that's a tough injury for a receiver. I can't imagine he's going to play, and I can't imagine both tackles are going to play. And you're talking about maybe the best left tackle in football, Teron Smith. And Lel Collins has kind of turned the corner this year and has been one of the best right tackles in football. So they're not just run-of-the-mill starters. They're two of their better players, and you add Cooper in, that's three of their better players. Yes, it's going to be difficult for them.
Hey, John, without Zach Brown now, as we look at the linebacker situation, I assume there's going to be a lot of big nickel with Sendejo coming in. So the two linebackers on the field, are we assuming it's going to be mostly Nate Gary and Camus Grugier-Hill with Nigel out, or do you think that they're going to use T.J. Edwards more on rundowns like they did with Zach Brown?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Nate and Camus when they have two linebackers on the field. When they are in base, I think TJ's going to play. He's going to be that third linebacker. And Nate's going to be the mic, and he's going to be the one calling the signals. It's a tough week to go with two undersized linebackers with Ezekiel Elliott and what the Cowboys want to do. Obviously, that's one of the best running backs in football. So I did think it was a little strange from a timing standpoint to get rid of Zach Brown, but that, as I said, was more of a personality thing. And TJ gives them a little bit more size, and I think you might see more base, just like you did in Minnesota, because Minnesota plays a lot of 12 and 13 and 21. You saw more 3 linebackers than usual. I think you might see more 3 linebackers than usual again this week because of Ezekiel Elliott.
For more on the Eagles-Cowboys, check out 97.3 ESPN.com. John McMullen has a ton of coverage on the Eagles-Dallas game. And, of course, tonight, countdown to kickoff. And Sunday, countdown to kickoff will continue to get you ready for the Eagles and Cowboys game with Tony Bruno and John McMullen on the Honda Hotline. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you, guys.